Mic died halfway through recording, didn't it? Oh, windy day today, Jesus. Oh. Is my name really that hard to spell? Hello everyone and welcome to what episode is it? Week 7 of the weekly Rycote. This week I am basically chasing my tail fixing all the mistakes I made last week, and in doing so I discovered problems with the design. I'm just still finding problems. I'm slowly getting there. I have 2 weeks left now, but there's a few things that are cropping up, so I'm going to show those to you now. However, firstly, I want to say thank you to those who purchased veneer from me last week. For those of you who weren't aware of this, I was selling veneer on eBay. If you won the bid, you could message me via my Facebook page and I was offering you free shipping. I haven't got rid of it all, so I'll be listing more of it this week. Let me show you some of the bits we have. Zebrano here. Pretty nice. I don't think this one's actually consecutive, but that would be perfect for boxes or marquetry or something like that. Got some burr veneers here. I haven't actually been able to identify them, so I don't really know what species or anything they are, but they're quite nice. This one's really cool actually. It's like a yellowish colour. Again, absolutely perfect for boxes. This is broken. I would reduce this pack. I think this might be Madrone or something like that, but this is like a pinky colour, and it's so close grained it actually feels really soft, and for a burr it is really flat. I have some stuff in here which is incredibly buckled and will be a bit of a nightmare to glue down, but this stuff is just, it's so easy to work. You can cut it with a scalpel and it won't follow the grain or anything like that. It's really soft, it gets a nice straight cut. It's lovely, it's really nice stuff, so I'll be listing that on there. I'll pop a link in the description to my eBay page. If you like anything on there and you win the bid on it, you got to message me via my Facebook page, which is Matt Estlea Furniture. Message me your username, what item you won. So, for example, I've got little codes that is assigned to each of the products. Okay, so into the actual project. These are some of the cock-ups I made this week, slash the ones that I was trying to fix, I suppose. First one was the tail vise. There is a major flaw in my design, which I didn't even consider. This is why you should read instructions before you do anything. Me being your stereotypical bloke, didn't read the instructions. I just sort of skim read them to see if there was anything important, and I have not accounted for the bars on the tail vise that the carriage slides along. The other bit I cocked up this week was the walnut end cap on the tail vise. Luckily it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Oh, there's a moth up there. But yeah, basically what I did here was when I was drilling out the waste along the end cap to accept the tongue on the end of the workbench, I accidentally drilled this all the way along and I didn't account for the split top in the top of the workbench. So it means that from the top, if you look on the inside of the end cap through the gap, you'll see a big cavity going through, which ideally I didn't want to be there. I wanted it to be a nice flat section so you couldn't actually see if there was any joint on the end. This isn't too much of an issue because all I can do here is just cut a bit of material off the end of the end cap. Yeah, that makes sense. Off the end of the end cap once I've established its final dimension, and basically plug that hole with that offcut afterwards. But I was incredibly lucky here that I didn't go too willy-nilly with the drill bit, because basically in my sort of trance, I suppose, as drilling it along, I could have so easily drilled through the material where the dovetails are due to be joined to the end cap as well. Luckily I only drilled out the material where the actual tongue is meant to be, plus that little bit in the middle, but like I said, I can fix that. But yeah, if I extend that all the way across to the dovetails where the sockets were, it would have written off that piece of material and I would have had to get a new bit of walnut and waste so much money. But I didn't, so it's okay. But the woodworking gods were with me that day, so thank God for that. I didn't completely write off that whole bit of walnut. This week I also got the chop for the vise glued up. I didn't have any material left over that was thick enough to make it out of one solid bit, unfortunately. So I had to stick 2 bits together and sort of work with that. This was actually kind of good because it allowed me to choose between the grain on each face, as they were relatively different, to see which would match with the front of the bench very well. So I had one that was kind of like a swirly-ish grain, and the other one was like a cathedral pattern on it. And I actually went for the cathedral pattern rather than the swirly pattern, simply because of the colour match. It matched the front of the bench a lot better. The material I'm using for the face of the bench, where I had that final layer on the top, is actually sort of more of a dark brownish colour, whereas the swirly grain is sort of it's like a proper white ash. So if I had the brownish front on the bench and then that stark white vice, it might have been a little bit too, not contrasting, but it would have just been a little bit off. So I've matched the colour of the grain rather than choose the more interesting grain pattern. Unfortunately, the vice isn't actually as wide as I wanted it to be. This is something I can amend later on just by sticking blocks onto the side. Again, this will be visible in the end grain where you see the end grain in different directions, but for functionality, I think that's going to be the main thing. If it really becomes much of a aesthetic problem, I suppose, I could just get a bit of wood and retrofit it to the bench afterwards. The bench crafted hardware, from reading the instructions this time, actually seems pretty easy to install, so I might do that in the future. We'll see. I don't know. Quite possibly the best thing this week though was that I was able to get the bottom frame dry assembled. I got all of the shoulders trimmed on the table saw, as I did with the shoulders on the end of the top. Got them all completely flush, which was really nice and satisfying. Yeah, I was able to dry fit the frame together. It doesn't actually look as big as you expect. It's actually kind of the size of a baby's crib, to be honest, which in scale to an entire Rubo workbench looks relatively small, worryingly, but it's still a big enough footprint to make it stable on the ground. And I'm just going to trust the proportions that I drew on AutoCAD to make the whole bench look right in the end, because at the moment, sort of seeing the smaller base with that long top, it's like, not sure how that's going to go together. But it looks good on SketchUp. I've cut everything to length. Nothing I can do at this point, so I'm just going to go with it and basically just see what it looks like once I get it all glued together. Hopefully it'll all look in proportion, because I did put quite a lot of effort into that. So after getting the base all dry fitted, I also got the draw bores all drilled out as well. For those of you who don't know what draw bores are, it's basically when a mortise goes into a leg, like that, you put two dowels through the leg, through the tenon, and then back into the leg, so essentially it locks it all in place. What you can actually do with this is offset the hole slightly, so that when you punch that dowel through, it ends up pulling the tail in even more. So for the draw bores, I'm using American black walnut, which in reality isn't actually a great drawable material because it's quite a soft wood. So this lends itself quite well to, like I mentioned earlier about the offset. If you slam that walnut dowel through, it is able to sort of follow that curve around the tenon and pull it in because of its softer nature. But in terms of its structural strength, you could definitely go with much harder timbers in order to give yourself extra security. These mortises are very tight fitting, and I'll be gluing them with Cascamite as well, which is a gap filling glue, so it is definitely going to hold in place by that alone. The walnut dowels are just there for the aesthetics mainly, extra security a little bit. That's it for this episode. I'm actually on half term at the moment, so I will be going into Rycote with 3 days this week to get stuff done. I'm going to attempt to try and get that bottom frame together. This package that I just got was, I think it is inserts for the underside of the workbench. Yes. Oh my god, they're massive. Jesus. These are M12 threaded inserts. A lot bigger than I expected. Oh my good god. Look at the size of them. They're like witchetty grubs. Jesus. So I've got to somehow thread these into the underside of the workbench, and this is where the bottom stretchers will be attached via bolts, and also the walnut end cap in the middle. I'm not going to be gluing the walnut end cap on simply because of the shrinkage at the top cannot be restricted by the long grain of the walnut. It needs to be able to slide in and out on there, so these threaded bars will allow me to do that without being locked in place with glue. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, comments or anything that you want to ask me, chuck it in the comments below or ask me via other social media. I actually have these 3-4 days now and all of next week to get the bench done. Oh my god, that is not a lot of time. I need to get cracking. But yeah, also I'll be relisting the veneer this week, so if you want to buy anything, have a look on there. Link is in description to my page. I'll be offering free shipping to those of you who win the bids. Message me via Facebook with your username and the part code of the item you win. Free shipping, save yourself £3.50 or £7 if you buy more, or £10.50 if you buy more, I don't know. But yeah, free shipping on any of that, so see what you can find, let me know, and yeah, see you next week.